programs for both imagery and LiDAR. In this one, this slide is focused on the imagery program. So you can see we have the Indiana dates back to 2005 collection of orthoimagery, and then we also have 2011 and 16 with 1 foot products. In 2021, Indiana Geographic Information Office took on the program that we're currently under for 6-inch, and this also includes buy-ups, and that's where I'd like to talk for a minute just about that map of Indiana, which I think is really nice. One option, as you can see, that we really want to focus on as a part of our imagery project is to make sure that we don't have planes in the air that are hired by the county and also hired by the state. So trying to keep the duplication down. And as you can see in Allen County in 2021 was collected, although that tier of the state, the eastern side, was scheduled for 2022. So that's why if you are from county or a city and looking for acquiring imagery, just make sure you talk to me, us, about your imagery needs and the rotation that works for your county. Also, the nice thing is you can see up in along the lake rim, there's the imagery collection for 3-inch, and also you can't tell by the resolution of the imagery that I'm displaying, but Monroe County was also a buy-up for 3-inch. So couple things just to take away then from this is, one, we want to try and be flexible as we can with communities and their schedule, and also looking to team up with communities to buying up to a higher resolution. And here, the LiDAR program. So let's take a minute and let's go back, starting from the oldest to the newest. And in 2005, we had a orthoimagery derived elevation product. This was a 5-foot product. It it was a big step from what we had, from what the nation had, Indiana had prior to that, from the USGS. So that was a really a cool thing when it came about. I still remember that announcement and that release of the information. But in 2011 and through 13, we also, the state managed a LiDAR program with QL3, and that was with a 20 vertical centimeter accuracy. And then in 2016, the state NRCS, in conjunction with the USGS, undertook a QL2 product with 2 points per meter and halving that vertical accuracy to 10. So really phenomenal products to be available statewide at just the click of some fingertips. And here, so let's, I'm going to just, I'd like to see a show of hands who's sat in on my ortho webinars, but I'm just going to backtrack a little bit and talk through the programs that we have. And so right now we're under the 2021 to 24 program. At the tail end, we have, this is our off-year collection for imagery. And then in 25, we'll be starting up a new program cycle. And here you can see, just I wanted to provide some feedback and quotes that I really valued from folks that submitted, giving us some understanding of why the statewide imagery is available to them and their processes. So I think it's just really neat to see how the statewide imagery collections help local government and all for that matter. So here, talking through, some of the points. So, imagery is authoritative. The reason why is because, we know the resolution, we know the accuracy, we know the time capture, and this is, something. The time capture is nice because we're going to we've been receiving, along with the deliverables from Sanborn, a point layer that represents the time and the date time capture for each of the photos built into the mosaic. So it's a really neat opportunity to continue to get requests on what availability there is to understand that, especially if imagery is used in going to court and other things. So here we also have that I'm going to refer to it as that professional level QC. NDOT has been undertaking and involved in the QC of the orthoimagery since 2011. So they've been behind the scenes, looking through, comparing the seam lines, looking at the bridges, looking at the building footprints, and just making sure that the imagery product that we receive and deliver and make available is up to standards. Now let's talk about imagery is available. So, up to this point, we haven't really talked about how we make the imagery available other than for download. So, this presentation is kind of checking off these first two items, and is making it available as a web mapping applications that Matt's going to be demonstrating, and also talking about the imagery services that we have and made available to the public. And then, of course, we still have the imagery available for download from Sanborn's site, and also from other partners such as the Indiana Spatial Data Portal and Jinha's site from Purdue, the Department of Forestry, that I think we've got some links to later in the presentation. And now let's talk about who's ever tried to manage an RFP for orthoimagery or LiDAR. It's it can be, or any other projects. It can be pretty daunting. So working through that, what we do here at the state is to make available our contract with the ortho vendor, and available for partners either at the county or city or others to help leverage in their needs for collecting and using orthoimagery and now this time with LiDAR. So, but we again that QC management and also the coordination of that collective buying power. So, eliminating that need to have a vendor come in and get set up just for a specific county. They're coming in every year for Indiana's collection, and being able to leverage that is a really great cost saver. So here, let's talk about the timeline. And let's start. We can start with January, right? We're in January, and right now we're in the planning stage. So we are in the planning stage for 2024 with Sanborn, and then we move into February, April. That's just around the corner, right? That's when the sun angle gets high enough to meet our specifications for collecting orthoimagery. And we'll start collecting imagery, and then we start moving into that ortho imaging process down in March. And you can see in every single one of these blocks we have overlap, and that's really neat thing to see as we progress through the program cycle, that the imagery is started and then instantly fed into that next cycle. So taking advantage of that kind of that moving wheel. And then also wanting to point out in the center, we have that partnership building, and that's part of this and part of our other webinars that we offer, in getting a better understanding and building those partnerships with you and understanding your needs again. So now let's talk a little bit about the nitty gritty and about the technical stuff. So here we have the solution migration that we undertook for the last few years. We had on-prem image servers that we've actually shut down now and turned off and closed up. So what we've done then in that meantime was to migrate our imagery to an AWS S3 cloud optimized GeoTIFF, and this is in an Amazon open bucket account that we have with Amazon. It's really an incredible opportunity. It allows us to have easy access, direct access through our web applications, and also others. So like it's you know, like the bucket's title, it's an open bucket, so anybody can have direct access to our imagery. And then also the imagery services. This is a really neat opportunity that we've had with working with Esri's ArcGIS image dedicated solution, and powering the imagery services that we're making and demonstrating today. So here, let's talk about this slide. So I'm going to abbreviate it a little bit, but starting in the upper left corner over here with the AWS Open Data Bucket, you can see we have the region specified, we have the bucket name, and then we've also want to just take a minute to talk about the folder structure. So typically, if you've ever downloaded the orthoimagery from Sanborn or looked at the hard drives that were delivered previously to counties, it was always grouped by county name, and then the image tiles within that county. What we've done now to optimize the amount of duplication, so we don't have those buffer tiles between counties, we've organized it by year and then by the spatial reference. So we have two spatial references in Indiana: State Plane East and State Plane West. And then we also have the resolution, so 3-inch, 6-inch, 12-inch. That's how you'll see the image files collected and organized. And then down here, this has been my sandbox for managing the Mosaic data sets. And these are that process that we go through in creating the imagery services. Once the Mosaic data set is built, then we publish that to the image dedicated. It's a SaaS solution using Esri's ArcGIS Online, and then we flow up to here. And then from here, and this is where I'm excited. Matt is going to be demonstrating these capabilities with desktop, with web maps, and with the Indiana map. So being able to provide these imagery services through all three of these platforms is really an incredible opportunity. All right, so enough of the technical stuff. Let's talk about what's coming up. I've been saying, 2025 is a new program. So what does that look like? And in 2025, we're going to be undertaking the same, more or less, orthoimagery products: 6-inch, 4-band, leaf off, sun angle higher than 30 degrees. So all those things that you've come to understand about our existing programs, it's going to be a continuation. The next is going to be the elevation. So like I said, we had a QL3 in 2011. In 2016, we started QL2, and now in 2025, we're going to be undertaking a QL1 product. So the main takeaways from that product is going to be 8 points per meter instead of 2, the same vertical accuracy of 10, and we'll also be deriving a 2-foot DEM from that point cloud. So these will all be available and starting collection in 25. And all right, so let's talk about dynamic versus cache. These are the two methods that imagery is made available using REST services. The dynamic service uses that 4-band imagery. It's really just like using the raw imagery on your desktop. So if you've got a GIS application, you're likely going to be able to pull in these dynamic services and use them just like you had downloaded the imagery. So trying to take that load off downloading and managing files locally, right? We want to get away from that. So as much as we can. So, but here other points, more imagery services are more customized, allows for analysis, and that's where I included the screenshot down there for ArcGIS Pro users at least. But these tools are all available in using the dynamic services, and many of them are not available for using with cache services. So it's just a really neat suite of tools and resources that are available for these dynamic services. And then let's see, in the upper right, I want to point out, these are some of the pre-baked templates that we've created. So you can see, with the click of the button, you can change it to NDVI. You can switch to near infrared, and these are all the benefit to this is that it makes in ArcGIS Online map users, this is just an easy toggle, and it is in Pro as well. Although you can certainly in Pro and other desktop applications do perform more customization than these templates. But it's a great start to getting to using and seeing the imagery in further depth. So here talking about the cache services. So these are pre-generated 3-band imagery. They render extremely quickly, and they're also a really nice benefit is that they are available for offline editing and field mapping applications. As you know, you go a lot of places in the so sometimes even in the cities. We just don't have that bandwidth that we come to appreciate in our home. So, all right, and the DEM capabilities. So let's talk a minute about kind of the background on the imagery elevation surface. And so the DEM is a bare earth surface. It has those surface features removed, such as buildings and vegetation, bridge decks. So, and then what this product is, particularly useful for is that hydrologic flow analysis, drainage patterns, watersheds, and then also on the right there, you can see the visual products that can be created. So, contours can be created from the TM, the hillshade, shaded relief, all these various kind of visually enhancing products are all available. All right. So let's go ahead and transition. Matt, would you like to carry on from here?
Yeah, let me take over the screen share, and I will handle the next couple slides before we start. I think I opened on the wrong screen. Just a second. All right, so before we really launch the demo, I'm going to just kind of briefly walk through what I'm going to talk about in the demo portion of the presentation, which we will start with looking at the REST catalog or the REST endpoints of all of these services and integrate these into an ArcGIS Pro map and kind of talk about some of the different capabilities that you can do with the dynamic services from that perspective. And from there, I will show some of the services and talk about what you can do with them on the Indiana Map platform and site. And then from there, we'll demonstrate a really interesting data product that we have with this new imagery program, which is our tile grid data, which it's kind of boundaries or footprints of each of the tiles within the mosaic data sets that allow you to directly download the imagery in that cloud-optimized GeoTIFF format. And I think at the very end, we'll kind of plug to some other resources that Phil Worrell from IGIC has been working on, which allow you to actually use this data to stream mosaic data sets directly from AWS and not have to download the data yourself. So with all that said, I will close the presentation out for the time being, and we will start with the front page of Indiana Map. And on this site, on this FAQs and guides page, around the time that the servers were announced that they were going to be deprecated, the old vector data and raster data services that the GIO was maintaining, we put some kind of simple crosswalk resources together at the top of this page about the new REST endpoints for a lot of the data that we host. So first one here is the transition from gis.in.gov to gisdata.in.gov, but the second one, which I'll be talking about in some more depth, is the retirement of the imagery server and the corresponding image-dedicated REST services that we have available. So if I click on this link to this di-ingov.img.arcgis.com, this will take me to a REST catalog, as you can see at the top of this screen, for our dynamic image services. And there's kind of a start to a pretty good collection of Imagery available here, and just for note for kind of future use, if I go back to this services directory here, there's also a folder available for the cache Web Mercator imagery services that should be pretty much empty, other than some kind of test products. But once these cached services are published and shared out, they will be available if you want to take advantage of them for the offline use and faster drawing speeds and all of that good stuff. So I will go back to the dynamic Web Mercator folder and click on this Indiana Current Imagery image service, which will show you kind of a series of information about this data. Not going to work with it during this session, but did want to note we have a button here if you want to retrieve a OGC compliant WMS URL from this data. You can simply click on that, and you can see the URLs changed, which should allow you to pull this data into CAD applications and anything else that uses that open source kind of format. So back to the Esri image service format, I will go ahead and start by copying this URL, and I have a blank ArcGIS Pro project here. And it can kind of show how you can easily add this to the map, and then we will register the server so that you can more easily integrate this into your maps and everything. So if you click on Add Data and this little caret button next to it at the top ribbon of the screen, and click on Add Path or Add Data by Path, this will allow you to paste a path or URL into the box here, and if we press add, once it finishes processing, we should see the statewide imagery start to draw. And I don't think I mentioned, for those of you that don't necessarily know, this Indiana Current Imagery is the most recent tiles all across the state from the imagery program. So anywhere that you zoom into the state, you should have the most up-to-date imagery that our office has worked with the Sanborn Company to acquire and publish and all that kind of stuff. So I will next add a server connection to this REST catalog, which will allow you to kind of more easily add this into your maps and everything. So if I go back to the services catalog, I can go ahead and copy this URL. If I go back to my Pro project, I go to catalog here, there is a servers button over on the left-hand side with your project. And if I right click on here and do add a new ArcGIS server connection, I can paste that same URL here. And since all of this is publicly shared, you shouldn't need to authenticate into it. So you can leave this all blank and press OK. And once that's done, you see there's a new server connection added here, which if I go back to the, going to remove this from my map first, but if I go back to the add data section, and I click on servers, I can go back to that same server connection, dynamic, it didn't go backwards on me, dynamic Web Mercator, and then I can add the Indiana Current Imagery back. And while I'm here, I'm going to add one other data set to kind of show off some of the raster functions and geoprocessing capabilities of this data, which is the most recent DEM for Indiana, which is that 2016 through 2020 DEM. As Sean mentioned, something really kind of exciting about these dynamic image services is we can build these raster functions kind of pre-baked into the data that allows you to kind of easily visualize it on the fly in different derivative products. So if I go to the data button for the image service layer, when I have this data set selected on the left-hand side of the screen, there's a button called processing templates here. And this section is where we have all these pre-baked raster processing templates. So by default, it will come in as just the raw bare earth DEM. But if you want to visualize it, for example, as a grayscale hillshade, you can pretty easily do that by just clicking on that button. And then you can see your kind of traditional hillshade show up here. We'll real briefly just run through the other products without actually selecting any of them. We have a shaded relief, which combines the elevation data per cell with the hillshade data, which kind of gives you the nice 3D look of the hillshade with the elevation data kind of draped on top of it. We have slope in two different formats, RGB and in degrees, and then we have an aspect in RGB and numeric values. As Sean said, this data is also, you can geoprocess with it. So I'm not going to run the contour tool from here and wait for it to process, but I will kind of show that you can add this service into the contour input and then derive contours from it. So can click on the contour tool. If you want to generate contours at any interval based on the elevation data, select that DEM. We'll generate an output feature class or a shapefile, depending on where you're putting it. If it's an IGIO database or in a folder, should default to the feature class or shapefile format. You can define your contour interval, your Z factor, and there's some parameters you can set on the contour type here. Would definitely recommend that because of some limitations on the maximum cell size with the geoprocessing, that you try and run these kind of tools on a smaller area, which you can do by going to the environments button here. And when you look at processing extent, by default, should do the entire data set. But you can do a few different parameters here, one of which would be the current display extent, which is going to be the area of the map that I'm viewing while I'm looking at it in the map pane here. And you can see the coordinates of view extent are shown here. And then when the tool runs, it will only process and generate contours within the area that we're looking at. Sean also mentioned raster functions, which we can kind of on the fly generate contours and look at them from a raster function view. So again, with ArcGIS Pro, if I click on imagery here and raster functions and open this button here, so we'll give you a series of kind of Esri-built functions that you can apply to the data. Some of these are more elevation and surface related. Some of them are more hydrology and statistical analysis kind of related. But if we want to look for contours, we could click on the surface button down at the bottom here. Click on this contours button, and this one should generate pretty quickly. So I could easily select that DEM. See, by default, it's doing a contour interval of 100. And if I do create new layer, we should have contours start to draw on the map right now, which are kind of blending in a lot with the imagery below it. But then you can, yeah, kind of on the fly, you're not actually exporting any data to your local machine or anything like that, just on the fly, draw it for visualization's sake. These same dynamic services are able to be geoprocessed, generate contours and other derivative products in QGIS and other open source platforms. We do not have that installed on our state laptops, so I won't be showing actually how to do that, but please do note that capability is enabled if users are using those different software platforms and want to take advantage of that. With all that said, I will go back to the Indiana map site where I'm currently looking at the imagery, base maps, and bare earth cover data category. So this is where a lot of our imagery and elevation data is exposed. You can also look at the elevation category, which should be really just purely about the DEM and different elevation products. So I will scroll down here and go back to this Indiana current imagery data set. You can see it's an image service. Also want to note we have some WMS URLs registered on this site as well, so you can easily grab those and pull those into your applications from the Indiana map site if you're interested as well. If I go back to the Indiana current imagery, we should have a kind of a preview map showing the raster over here, and then a series of different things that you can do with it on the left-hand side of the screen here. So if you want to stream this data, always recommend that you press this I want to use this button down at the top or bottom left of the screen, which will give you a few different kind of options that out of the box options that you can start interacting with the data in different platforms. So did want to note first, if you press view data source, this will open in a new tab the REST endpoint of this data set, and you can see this is that exact same URL for the current imagery that we were looking at when we went directly to the REST catalog. And if I go back to the dynamic web Mercator folder, all of these same image services are exposed again here. So all of the content for the image services that we have on Indiana Map are coming from the exact same place where the original image service and mosaics are being published. If you are signed in to the Indiana Map platform with an account either from the free community level accounts that we offer with Indiana Map or your own organizational ArcGIS Online account, you can easily start to create a custom map with this data. And it's as simple as just pressing the drop down here and pressing ArcGIS Map Viewer. And if I was signed in, this would allow me to actually save this map as a web map in my organization. But you should see it will pop in. You know, you could add your own data, add data from Indiana Map or other platforms to it, create kind of a fully custom web map. While we haven't added to a web map, those same raster processing templates are available for the image services. So if I go to show properties here and go to processing templates, once this loads, we have for the imagery, these are not the same as we were looking at on the DEM, but we do have a NDVI function that you can easily apply to it by pressing on it and pressing end, or the near infrared band being exposed, which you can do some neat stuff with vegetation and kind of impervious surface coverage with some of these different products. Last thing on the Indiana Map site that I wanted to show was how the imagery is exposed in the kind of public-facing Indiana Map Viewer, which I will go ahead and get opened up right now. And the main way I would recommend adding any of the image services on the kind of public-facing map is through the base map gallery. So over at kind of the top right of the map preview here, there's a button with 4 little squares on it. And if you click on this button, you can see we have a whole series of the imagery made available, including some of our historic imagery. So again, I could click on the Indiana current imagery. You can see this takes away the kind of Esri default base map and replaces it with the statewide imagery. And with that, I will go ahead and kind of show some of the tile grid capabilities. So if I go back to the front page of Indiana Map and look up DEM tile, we can go to an individual collection year from the DEM tile footprints. And again, I will go to, I want to use this and view data source. And if I go back to kind of the root of this data set, which should also show up in the search on Indiana Map, these are feature services with all the tile footprints. And they are kind of group layers where you have everything contained as an individual layer within the feature service. And we have built this by collection year. So if you want to grab everything and pull it into something together, you could copy and paste this URL into your applications. If you want to grab just one program cycle, you could go ahead and grab any of these individual years. And I will do that with the most recent elevation data program, where I'll go ahead and copy this URL with the numeric identifier at the end of it. And I will go back into ArcGIS Pro, add data from path. And if I copy that URL and paste it there, you can see these footprints start to draw on the map. And if we click on any of these footprints, you can see this includes some information in the pop-up or its attribute table for each feature that you click on. So that would be the image's name, the year that the data was collected, the county name or county names if the tile happens to overlap a county boundary like it probably does right here. Yep, so Brown and Monroe County, pixel size, and a URL path. And if you click on this URL path, the cloud optimized GeoTIFF should download directly to your local device. So you can do a lot here with selecting multiple features, importing them into some different catalogs and stuff, like I mentioned earlier, with some kind of really neat technology options that are being made available. But I will interact with the same data back in the Indiana Map Viewer and show some capabilities that we have here as well. So again, I should be opening probably the map I was just looking at, since it should have saved my progress here. Or the map with the imagery on it and everything. And we can access this data. If I search DEM here, We have Indiana DEM tile footprints. And if I zoom in to a more reasonable level, you can see, because this is the group layer, all of the collection cycles are added. So again, if I want to just look at 2016 through 2020, I can toggle these off. And if I want to generate a CSV or a list of the features that I want to download the tiles for or stream for, you can press this button to select data to make it a little easier, do partially or completely within. And then I can draw a box or a polygon on the screen. You can see we have 12 footprints selected. And then if I press this button down at the bottom of the screen, this will open the attribute table for this data. And if you go all the way over to the right here, where the tooltip says actions with these 4 dots on it, you can export the selected features to a CSV, a JSON, or a GeoJSON format, which would then allow you to either download the tiles individually as you would like, or work with them as you need to. And from here, we have a new guide published on Indiana Map, which I think might be of interest to some folks if you want to use the tile footprints or interact with the data directly from the AWS buckets where it's all published. So again, I'll go back to the FAQs and guides page on Indiana Map. And I will scroll down here, and we have an introductory guide. I think I mentioned Phil from IGIC has been working with kind of how to interact with this data in some pretty novel ways. And this is kind of an introductory document talking about how the data is stored on AWS, advantages of the cloud optimized GeoTIFFs. And down at the very bottom here, there's a series of other links to other tutorials he's published in Google Docs, I believe, that allows you to access it using VRTs, both in QGIS and ArcGIS Pro. And then if you're a really advanced user, if you want to use the AWS command line interface to access the tiles. And I think with that, Sean, I will pass it back to you. I know we have a couple of final slides, which I can get pulled up. And if you just want to tell me when you're ready for me to move on, I will keep moving along. There we go.
Okay. So yes, let's see. On this side, just the external resources. So Indiana's been really fortunate to have partnerships outside of there's only of just our organization, and so through IGIC, through the universities. Phil has been working and as Matt demonstrated the kind of some of the base tools there, how to go about finding those resources. Phil is going to be talking about this at our next Ortho webinar on Tuesday, February 20th. So please join the IGIC Orthoimagery committee meeting that it happens. It's every month on the Tuesday there, the 20th. So anyway, and then on the right side we have just a quick couple of screenshots of using QGIS and how Jin Ha from Purdue University has created some countywide DEMs for use of the LiDAR and of the orthoimagery for the state, and how it's just really so easily accessible within QGIS. So if you don't have that ArcGIS desktop license, check out QGIS and these tools. So let's go to the next slide. And then just options on downloading data. So again, Matt demonstrated how we have internal resources for downloading the imagery, and then we also have again partnerships with Purdue and the Indiana Spatial Data Portal for being able to download the same data. And really, Jin Ha's site is wonderful. It focuses on a lot of those derived raster products from the point cloud, and then the Indiana Spatial Data Portal is a wonderful repository for all the products that Indiana has collected, dating back to 2005. And if you're needing that metadata level information, that again is there tucked away and available for download. So, all right, and I think that's yeah, and then so that wraps up the presentation. I do want to we wanted to give you include the links that Matt reviewed and we've talked about today. So so please check those out, and we'll also be posting those in the team chat here shortly for you.